Hi, Murray Hallam here. I'm going to share with you the work of a researcher from many decades ago. Now, it's doing aquaponics in a slightly different way, and so far our experiments have been running ever so successfully. Now, here's a look at one of the beds that we're operating right now. Now, here's one of the sand beds that we're running that is based on the work of Dr. Mark McMurtry, actually. Goes back a long way. You remember some time ago I spoke to you about building a sand system, Steve, and we've had that running now for 22 months now, actually, and keeping good records, and we're finding we're getting fantastic results out of that.
That's good.
We've gone
now.
So
we had somebody ask how is that going, because I saw you did the build for it, but then I haven't seen much update.
And it just happened so when I decided to come and film that the bed is in the flood cycle. And you can see up the middle here we've got some fantastic carrots growing. Look how good they look. And up the side here we've got some tomato bushes that are just coming on. Now these tomato bushes are all clones of other tomato bushes we've been running, and it's the middle of winter for us here in Australia, so we're a bit ambitious to try and get tomatoes growing, but so far they're going extremely well. You can see up here some all-season spinach that's been in the system for about 4 weeks now, and it's doing extraordinarily well too. So that's what we're going to be talking about.
iAVs, do you want to give a simple explanation on the difference between a sand-based system and traditional aquaponics? What makes it easier or simpler?
Well, it's just sand to start with. It's got to be a fairly coarse sand though. It doesn't work very well if it's a fine sand. And it operates on the idea of flood and drain. So you flood it. Our system, we flood it every 90 minutes. We flood it for 12 minutes, and the 12 minutes we've just found by trial and error is sufficient time to actually flood the beds. And then we let it completely drain for 90 minutes, and so the cycle goes. And at night time, we turn the pump off. We've got it operating on a photoelectric cell, so as soon as the sunlight depletes, then the pumping cycle doesn't go on anymore. It's another advantage because the pumping required is much lower than you do when you're pumping continuously in a traditional aquaponics system.
So this is our iAVs system, and it's just in its real infancy, and we're running experiments on it. We're really desirous of proving the work of Dr. Mark McMurtry, and he wrote his papers back in I think 1984 or 85, something like that, where he made some really amazing claims about how well the system works and the way in which it closes the nutrient gap. Most aquaponic systems do not produce quite enough nutrients to give good plant growth. So this, we're hoping, with the microbiology that should set up in the sand, we should be able to get really good results. Now, we've been actually running it for about 4 or 5 months already, but we've just made some major changes to it, and that is putting in a bigger fish tank with more fish in it, and we now have 150 jade perch in this tank, which are all fairly mature, so we're going to be able to get some good feed rates into it now, so we can try and get the plants to grow really well. But you can see already, have a look at these beans here. Look at these beans, this bean bush. It's just a single bean bush growing in the end of the sand bed. Look at the health of the leaves, look at the colour of them. They're just in beautiful condition, and they're flowering now. We've been picking beans off this particular bush now for about 3 or 4 weeks, and we pick a handful of beans every day.
Of course, the claims made by Dr. Mark McMurtry almost 40 years ago now, that system would remain stable once it's settled down, is we're finding to be absolutely true. Our pH has settled to about 6.4. We don't have to make any pH adjustments. And the whole system now, we have never ever added any additives whatsoever to it, except in the first 3 months we added compost tea to give the system a bit of a kickstart. But since then we've added nothing, no potassium, no calcium, no iron, no phosphorus, added nothing. And we're getting fantastic commercial testing results on our tomatoes, because that's what we're growing mostly in the system is tomatoes, because of the idea that tomatoes are the hardest thing to grow and get a good result. So yeah, so we're getting terrific results, and it's just so simple. It just works.
Here we can see that some of the beds are starting to build up with some fish waste from the sump, but it's taking a long time. This particular bed's been running for a month now, so we're starting to get some build up, but as you can see it's not progressing very far along the bed, just a little bit. We're starting to get it to track down there, so that's what we want to see. You can see here some of the tomatoes we've already planted, and they're doing well. We planted a couple of lettuces there, but they're not doing so well, but these tomatoes over here are doing well. The seedlings are coming up really good, so I'm very pleased with that.
Requires very little maintenance. The fish are happy. The system we've got has got about 35 square metres of growing area, and we have 125 jade perch, mature jade perch, which are all about 2 pounds each, around about that size in the system. And yeah, what else is there to say?
You can see them coming on here. Look, new little beans. Look at that, beautiful purple beans, plenty of them, and the bush is in such really good condition. Okay, follow me a bit further. We've already had one tomato crop out of this, and we've actually ditched those most of those tomato bushes and planted fresh ones.
It's so disgustingly simple, it's going to be a bit difficult to write a book about it, actually.
Because in reality, the test for aquaponics and for any gardener is growing tomatoes. It's fairly easy to grow lettuce, you can grow them fairly easily, and other leafy greens, but tomatoes have a very high nutrient demand. So the trick is to be able to grow good tomatoes. If you can do that, then you can do the rest.
I say this very cautiously still, but I believe it's probably the way of the future for aquaponics. It's extremely simple, and it works very, very well. We get massive tomato growth, good fruit setting. So I'd be really keen for someone to try cannabis in it to see how it goes.
System, this sand system, which I think is just going to change the face of aquaponics quite a bit.